Dr. Sarah Mitchell had been a child psychologist for 15 years in Portland, Oregon, and she'd seen it all, or so she thought. But 8-year-old Emma Carson was different. The girl sat in the corner of Sarah's office, knees pulled to her chest, staring at the rain-streaked window with eyes that seemed far older than her years. It was their 12th session, and Emma hadn't spoken a single word. "Emma, I brought something new today," Sarah said gently, pulling out a set of colorful art supplies. "Sometimes drawing helps us express what words can't." Nothing, not even a flicker of acknowledgement. Sarah felt the familiar weight of frustration settling in her chest. She'd tried everything: play therapy, cognitive behavioral techniques, even music therapy. Emma's file told a heartbreaking story. Mother died in a car accident 2 years ago, father struggling to cope, behavioral issues at school, declining grades, and complete withdrawal from social interaction. The clock on the wall ticked loudly in the silence. Sarah glanced at her notes, feeling the professional defeat she'd worked so hard to avoid her entire career. She'd helped hundreds of children through trauma, but Emma's walls were impenetrable. Through the office door's small window, Sarah could see Emma's father, Marcus Carson, sitting in the waiting room. He was a tall man in his late 30s, wearing a slightly wrinkled shirt that suggested he'd come straight from his job at the local construction company. His calloused hands gripped a worn baseball cap, and the exhaustion etched into his face told its own story of sleepless nights and unanswered questions. "Emma, your dad will be here in 5 minutes," Sarah tried once more. "Is there anything you'd like to tell me before we finish today?" The girl's expression didn't change. She continued staring out the window at the grey November sky, watching the rain create rivers down the glass. Sarah made a decision that went against everything she'd been trained to do. After the session ended, and Emma had been led to the waiting room by Sarah's assistant, she called Marcus into her office alone. "Mr. Carson, please sit down," Sarah said, her voice heavy with regret. Marcus settled into the chair, his eyes immediately searching hers for hope. "Did she say anything today? Anything at all?" Sarah shook her head. "Marcus, I need to be honest with you. After 3 months, I haven't been able to make any progress with Emma. I think it might be time to consider a different therapist, someone with a fresh perspective, someone who might connect with her better than I can." The hope drained from Marcus's face, replaced by something that looked like defeat mixed with desperation. "Dr. Mitchell, you're the 4th therapist we've tried. The others gave up after 2 weeks, maybe a month. You've stuck with her longer than anyone." "I know, and I'm sorry. I just feel like I'm failing her, and she deserves better." Marcus leaned forward, his voice cracking slightly. "After Sarah, my wife, died, Emma stopped talking. Just stopped. The doctors said it was selective mutism triggered by trauma. Every therapist we've seen has said they can help, and then they can't. I'm running out of options, Dr. Mitchell. I'm running out of hope." Sarah felt the weight of his words. She'd seen the toll Emma's silence had taken on Marcus, the missed workdays, the financial strain of constant therapy appointments, the dark circles under his eyes. But she also knew that sometimes, despite best intentions, a therapist simply couldn't reach a patient. "I understand how difficult this is," Sarah said carefully. "But Emma needs someone who can actually help her, and I don't think I'm that person. I'm sorry." Marcus stood slowly, replaced his cap on his head, and nodded. "I appreciate your honesty, Dr. Mitchell. I'll let you know what we decide." His voice was hollow, resigned. As he turned to leave, Sarah felt a pang of guilt so sharp it almost made her call him back. But she didn't. She watched through her office window as Marcus knelt beside Emma in the waiting room, gently touching her shoulder. The girl didn't respond, didn't even look at him. That night, Sarah sat in her apartment overlooking the Willamette River, a glass of wine untouched on the coffee table beside her. The Portland city lights reflected off the water, creating dancing patterns that usually calmed her. Not tonight. She pulled up Emma's file on her laptop, reading through her notes for what felt like the 100th time. Mother died in a head-on collision on Interstate 84 during a winter storm. Emma had been in the car. She'd survived with minor injuries, but she'd watched her mother die while they waited for emergency services. The trauma counselor at the hospital had noted that Emma's last words before she stopped speaking were, "Mommy's sleeping." Sarah closed her laptop and pressed her palms against her eyes. She'd spent 15 years helping children heal from trauma, and she'd always found a way through. But Emma's silence felt different, like the girl had built a fortress around herself so complete, so impenetrable, that no one could find the door. Her phone buzzed with a text from her colleague, Dr. James Chen. "Heard about the Carson case. Don't beat yourself up. Some kids just aren't ready to heal." But was that true? Or had Sarah simply failed to find the right approach? The next morning, Sarah called Marcus. "I've been thinking," she said. "I'd like to try one more session, just one. If there's no progress, I'll help you find someone else and ensure a smooth transition." There was a long pause on the other end. "Thank you, Dr. Mitchell. We'll be there Thursday at 4. Thursday arrived with the kind of cold, crisp autumn weather that makes Portland feel both melancholic and beautiful. Sarah prepared her office differently this time. She removed the toys, the art supplies, all the therapeutic tools she'd been trained to use. Instead, she brought in a simple wooden rocking chair and placed it near the window. When Emma arrived with Marcus, Sarah tried something new. "Emma, your dad is going to stay in the room today if that's okay. Sometimes having someone we love nearby makes things easier." Emma showed no reaction, but Marcus's eyebrows raised slightly. Sarah had never invited him into the session before. They sat in silence for 10 minutes. Sarah didn't push, didn't try to engage. She simply rocked gently in her chair, watching the clouds move across the sky. Marcus sat on the small couch, his hands clasped between his knees, occasionally glancing at his daughter with a mixture of love and helplessness. Finally, Sarah spoke. "Emma, I want to tell you something honest. I'm not sure I can help you, and that makes me feel like I've failed you. But your dad told me something that's been on my mind. He said you were the bravest person he knew." For the first time in 12 sessions, Emma's eyes shifted slightly toward Sarah. "He told me that on the day of the accident, you stayed calm while waiting for help. You held your mum's hand and sang her favorite song. Do you remember that?" Emma's jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. Marcus's eyes widened. He'd never told Sarah that detail. He'd mentioned Emma sang to her mother, but not which song. Sarah had made an educated guess based on a note in the hospital report. "Your dad plays that song sometimes," Sarah continued softly. "He says it helps him feel close to both of you, to your mum's memory and to the brave girl who tried to comfort her in those last moments." A single tear rolled down Emma's cheek. Sarah's heart raced, but she kept her voice steady and gentle. "It's okay to miss her, Emma. It's okay to be sad. It's okay to be angry. And it's okay to be scared." Marcus moved from the couch to kneel beside his daughter's chair, but he didn't touch her. He just stayed close, his presence a silent offer of support. The session ended without Emma speaking, but something had shifted. Sarah could feel it, fragile as a spider's web, but unmistakably there. As they prepared to leave, Sarah walked them to the door. "Same time next week?" she asked Marcus. He nodded, his eyes glistening. "Same time." What Sarah didn't know was that her decision to try one more time, to invite Marcus into the room, and to acknowledge Emma's pain honestly rather than trying to fix it with therapeutic techniques, had created the smallest crack in the fortress. And sometimes that's all healing needs to begin. The week between sessions felt eternal for Marcus Carson. He'd taken to watching Emma more carefully, looking for any sign that Dr. Mitchell's words had affected her. There were small things. Emma had paused for a moment when Marcus played Sarah McLachlan's "Angel" on the kitchen radio, the song she'd sung to her mother. She'd looked at him, really looked at him, for just a second before turning away. It was more than he'd gotten in 2 years. Dr. Sarah Mitchell, meanwhile, found herself thinking about Emma at odd hours. She'd wake up at 3 in the morning with ideas, questions, approaches she'd never considered. She pulled out old textbooks, called mentors from graduate school, and dove deep into research on childhood trauma and selective mutism. There had to be something she was missing, some key that would unlock Emma's voice. On Tuesday, Sarah made a decision. She called Lincoln Elementary School and spoke with Emma's teacher, Mrs. Patricia Hughes. "Dr. Mitchell, I'm so glad you called," Patricia said, her voice warm but concerned. "Emma sits in class every day, and she completes her work. She's actually quite bright when she applies herself. But she won't participate, won't raise her hand, won't interact with the other children. During recess, she sits on the bench and watches everyone else play." "Has there been any recent change in her behavior?" Sarah asked. "Actually, yes. Yesterday, one of the boys in class, Tyler, was being bullied by some older kids. Emma stood up and walked over to them. She didn't say anything, but she positioned herself between Tyler and the bullies and just stared them down. They eventually left. Tyler tried to thank her, but she just walked away. Sarah felt her pulse quicken. She intervened. That's the first proactive social behavior she's shown. Yes, it surprised everyone, including me. Emma has been so withdrawn that we'd almost forgotten she was aware of what was happening around her. After hanging up, Sarah sat back in her chair, piecing together a new understanding of Emma. The girl wasn't disconnected from the world. She was hyper-aware of it. She was watching, processing, feeling. She just couldn't or wouldn't express it verbally. Thursday's session arrived with an unexpected twist. As Marcus and Emma entered the waiting room, Sarah noticed Emma was clutching something. A small, worn, stuffed rabbit that Sarah hadn't seen before. "That's Buttons," Marcus explained quietly as they entered the office. "Sarah, my wife, gave it to Emma on her 5th birthday. She hasn't touched it since the accident. This morning I found Emma with it at breakfast." Sarah felt a surge of hope mixed with caution. Progress in trauma therapy was rarely linear. Sometimes what looked like a step forward was actually the mind's way of preparing for a deeper confrontation with pain. This session, Sarah tried something different. She'd brought her acoustic guitar. "I'm not very good," Sarah admitted, settling into the rocking chair with the instrument. "But music has always helped me process feelings I can't quite put into words. Emma, would it be okay if I played something?" No response, but Emma's grip on Buttons tightened slightly. Sarah played a simple melody, nothing fancy, just a soft, gentle tune that filled the quiet spaces of the office. Marcus watched his daughter carefully, and Sarah watched them both. After a few minutes, Sarah stopped playing. "Emma, your dad told me you used to love singing. Before the accident, you were in the school choir." Emma's shoulders tensed. "He said you had the voice of an angel," Sarah continued gently. "He said your mom used to call you her little songbird." A flash of pain crossed Emma's face. Marcus leaned forward slightly. It's okay," he whispered. "It's okay to remember the good things, too." The room fell silent again, but it was a different kind of silence, charged with emotion, with possibility. Sarah set the guitar aside. "Emma, I want to try something. I'm going to ask you some yes or no questions, and if you want to answer, you can nod for yes or shake your head for no. You don't have to answer any of them if you don't want to. Is that okay?" A long pause, then, barely perceptible, Emma nodded. Sarah felt her heart leap, but kept her voice calm. "Do you miss your mum?" Nod. "Do you think about her every day?" Nod. "Are you scared of what might happen if you start talking again?" Emma's eyes widened slightly. A nod, more definite this time. Marcus's breath caught audibly. "Do you worry that if you talk about your mum, it will hurt too much?" Nod. "Do you worry that talking might make you forget her?" Emma's eyes filled with tears, and she nodded emphatically. Sarah leaned forward, her voice gentle but firm. "Emma, I want you to know something important. Talking about your mum won't make you forget her. Speaking her name, sharing memories, expressing how much you miss her, all of that keeps her memory alive. Silence doesn't protect her memory. Your voice does. Tears were streaming down Emma's face now, and Marcus moved to sit on the floor beside her chair. He didn't touch her, just sat close enough that she could feel his presence. "Your dad misses her too," Sarah said softly. "He misses talking about her with you. He misses hearing your voice. He misses the little girl who used to sing in the kitchen while they made pancakes on Sunday mornings." Marcus's voice was thick with emotion. "It's true, baby girl. I miss you. I miss hearing your laugh, your questions, your terrible jokes. I miss all of it." Emma turned to look at her father, really look at him for the first time in the session. She saw the tears on his cheeks, the love in his eyes, the exhaustion and determination that had carried him through 2 years of her silence. Sarah made a decision in that moment. "Marcus, is there something you want to say to Emma? Something you've been holding back?" Marcus took a shaky breath. "Emma, I need you to know that what happened to Mom wasn't your fault. I know you were there. I know you tried to help her, and I know you probably feel like you should have done more, but baby girl, you were 6 years old. There was nothing more you could have done. You stayed with her. You sang to her. You gave her comfort in those last moments, and that was the greatest gift you could have given." Emma's face crumpled, and she began to cry in earnest. Deep, racking sobs that seemed to come from a place that had been locked away for 2 years. Marcus reached out slowly, giving Emma the chance to pull away. She didn't. Instead, she leaned into him, burying her face against his chest as he wrapped his arms around her. Buttons, the rabbit, was pressed between them. "I've got you," Marcus whispered. "I've got you, and I'm not letting go." They stayed like that for several minutes, while Sarah sat quietly, giving them space to grieve together in a way they hadn't been able to for 2 years. This was the breakthrough she'd been hoping for. Not Emma speaking, but Emma feeling, expressing, connecting. When the sobs finally subsided into hiccups and sniffles, Emma pulled back slightly from her father. She looked at him with red, swollen eyes, and then she looked at Sarah. Sarah smiled gently. "That took a lot of courage, Emma. I'm proud of you." Emma looked down at Buttons, her fingers tracing the worn fabric of the rabbit's ears. Her lips moved slightly, as if she were trying to form words, but nothing came out. "It's okay," Sarah said. "You don't have to say anything right now. What you just did, letting yourself feel, letting yourself cry, letting your dad hold you, that's huge. That's healing." As the session came to an end, Marcus and Emma stood to leave. At the door, Emma did something unexpected. She turned back to Sarah and, still clutching Buttons, she reached out and briefly touched Sarah's hand. It was the first time Emma had initiated physical contact with anyone other than her father in 2 years. After they left, Sarah sat in her office for a long time, staring at the spot where Emma had stood. She'd been ready to give up, ready to admit defeat, but something had kept her trying one more time, and that persistence had created a moment of genuine connection. Her phone buzzed with a text from Marcus, sent after they'd gotten to their car. "Thank you. I saw my daughter today for the first time in 2 years. Whatever happens next, thank you for that." Sarah typed back, "She's fighting her way back. Give her time. We'll get there together." That night, Sarah updated Emma's file with detailed notes about the session. She ended with a clinical observation that was also deeply personal. Patient showed significant emotional breakthrough, initiated non-verbal communication, and demonstrated trust in both father and therapist. Prognosis: cautiously optimistic. Note to self: never give up on a patient who's still fighting, even if their fight looks like silence. What Sarah didn't know was that across town, in a small 2-bedroom apartment, Emma was lying in bed with Buttons tucked under her arm. Marcus sat on the edge of her bed, reading her favorite book from before the accident, a story about a brave girl who goes on an adventure. As he read, Emma's lips moved silently, forming the words along with him. She wasn't ready to speak yet, but for the first time in 2 years, she wanted to. And sometimes Wanting to is the first step toward being able to. Marcus, Sarah said carefully, Emma's listening, and I think there's something she wants you to know, even if she can't say it yet. Marcus turned to his daughter. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to. I'm just worried about you, baby girl. I want to help you, but I don't always know how. Emma stood up from her chair and walked over to her father. She climbed into his lap, something she hadn't done since before the accident, and rested her head against his chest. It was her way of saying, I know, I'm trying. Sarah felt tears prick her eyes. This was the beauty and heartbreak of her work, watching families find their way back to each other through pain. Emma, Sarah said softly, I know talking is hard. I know it feels scary, but I want you to understand something. Your voice didn't cause the accident. Using your voice now won't bring back bad memories. It will give you the power to share the good ones. Emma lifted her head from Marcus's chest and looked at Sarah with those old, knowing eyes. What if we tried something different today? Sarah suggested. What if we talked about happy memories of your mom? Marcus, would you be willing to share a favorite memory? Marcus smiled, though his eyes were wet. Oh, I've got tons. Like the time Sarah tried to bake Emma a birthday cake and forgot to put in sugar. We didn't realize until we all took a bite at the party. Sarah was so embarrassed, but Emma, he looked at his daughter with love. Emma said it was the best cake ever because Mom made it. The corner of Emma's mouth twitched, almost like the beginning of a smile. Your mum laughed so hard she cried, Marcus continued, and then we all went out for ice cream instead. Remember that, Em? Emma nodded, and this time Sarah could see something like joy in her expression, mixed with the sadness. They spent the rest of the session sharing memories. Marcus talking, Sarah occasionally asking questions, and Emma listening, sometimes nodding, sometimes touching buttons, always present in a way she hadn't been at the beginning. As the session ended, Sarah walked them to the door. Same time next week? She asked. On the evening of the concert, Sarah was in her apartment making dinner when her phone rang. It was Marcus, and she could hear noise in the background. Children's voices, music. Dr. Mitchell, Marcus said, and his voice was shaking. Something's happening. We're at the school, and she's having some kind of reaction. She keeps grabbing her throat and shaking her head. I don't know if she's having a panic attack or what, but I'm getting worried. Are you somewhere private? Sarah asked, already grabbing her coat. We're in the hallway outside the auditorium. Most people are inside for the concert. Stay there. I'm 20 minutes away. Try to keep her calm, and Marcus, just be with her. Don't pressure her to explain, just be present. Sarah drove through Portland's rainy streets faster than she should have, her mind racing through possibilities. Was this a setback? Had pushing Emma to attend been too much too soon? When she arrived at Lincoln Elementary, she found Marcus sitting on the floor in the hallway with Emma cradled in his lap. The girl was crying silently, her hands gripping buttons so tightly that her knuckles were white. Sarah sat down beside them. Emma, I'm here. Can you look at me? Emma's eyes met hers, and Sarah saw something she'd never seen before in the girl's face. Determination mixed with frustration and fear. Are you trying to say something? Sarah asked gently. Emma nodded emphatically. Is it about your mom? Another nod. Is it about the concert, about the music? Emma shook her head, then paused and nodded. It was both. Sarah thought quickly. Emma, inside that auditorium there are children singing. Does hearing them make you remember singing with your mom? Nod. Does it make you want to sing again? Emma's face crumpled, and she nodded so hard it was almost violent. Yes, 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 her body language screamed. I want to sing. I want to talk. I want to be myself again. But you're scared, Sarah said softly. You're scared that if you open your mouth, if you let the words out, something bad will happen. Emma stared at her, tears streaming down her face. Then, slowly, she nodded once more. Marcus pulled Emma closer. Baby girl, nothing bad is going to happen. I promise you, your voice is a gift. Using it won't cause anything bad. It will only bring good things. From inside the auditorium, they could hear the children beginning to sing Silent Night. The sound drifted into the hallway, pure and sweet. Emma's breathing started to accelerate, and Sarah recognized the signs of a panic attack beginning. "Emma, breathe with me. In through your nose, out through your mouth." But Emma was shaking her head, pulling away from Marcus's arms. She stood up on trembling legs, still clutching buttons, and looked at the doors to the auditorium. "Do you want to go in?" Marcus asked, confused. Emma nodded. Marcus looked at Sarah, who shrugged, equally uncertain. "Okay, sweetheart, we can go in if you want." Marcus opened the door carefully, and they slipped into the back of the auditorium. The room was packed with parents and family members, all watching the children on stage sing. The lights were dimmed, and most people didn't notice them enter. Emma walked past her father and Sarah, moving down the side aisle toward the stage. Marcus started to follow, but Sarah put a hand on his arm. "Wait. Let's see what she does." They watched as Emma made her way closer to the stage, stopping about halfway down the aisle. She stood there, illuminated by the soft glow of the stage lights, watching the children sing. The song came to an end, and the music teacher announced the next piece, Angel by Sarah McLachlan. Marcus gasped quietly. "That's the song. That's what Emma sang to Sarah, to her mother, in the car." On stage, a girl about Emma's age stepped forward to sing the solo. She was nervous, her voice wavering slightly on the first few words. Some of the children in the audience giggled. Emma's hands clenched at her sides. The girl on stage faltered, her eyes filling with tears. She looked like she might run off stage, and then something extraordinary happened. Emma opened her mouth, and a clear, beautiful voice, unused for over 2 years but still remarkably pure, began to sing the words to Angel. The entire auditorium fell silent. Heads turned. The girl on stage stopped, shocked. Emma kept singing, her voice growing stronger with each word, each note a declaration of survival, of memory, of love for a mother she'd lost. Marcus stood frozen, tears streaming down his face. Sarah felt her own tears falling freely. Emma sang the entire first verse and chorus, and then her voice cracked. She stopped, looking terrified at what she'd just done, at all the eyes now on her. Marcus moved then, walking quickly down the aisle to his daughter. He knelt beside her, and Emma turned to him with wide, scared eyes. He leaned close and whispered one word, so quietly that Sarah could barely hear it from where she stood. "Beautiful." Emma looked at her father, at the love and pride and wonder on his face. She looked at Sarah, who was nodding encouragingly. She looked at the girl on stage, who was smiling at her through tears. And then Emma Carson, who hadn't spoken in 2 years and 3 months, who had locked her voice away to protect herself from pain, who had built walls so high that 4 therapists had given up trying to reach her, opened her mouth and spoke. "Daddy," she said, her voice hoarse and uncertain, but unmistakably real. "Daddy, I miss Mommy." The words broke something open in Marcus. He pulled Emma into his arms, and they both sobbed, the kind of crying that comes from grief too long held, from pain finally acknowledged, from healing that hurts before it soothes. "I know, baby girl," Marcus whispered into her hair. "I know. I miss her too. So much. I was scared." Emma's voice came out muffled against his chest. "I was scared if I talked about her, I'd forget what she sounded like." "Oh, Emma." Marcus pulled back to look at his daughter's face. "You could never forget. She's part of you. She's in your voice, in your heart, in everything beautiful about you." Emma looked up at him with those old, knowing eyes that were finally starting to look young again. "Can we talk about her? Can we remember her together?" "Every day," Marcus promised. "Every single day." Sarah approached them quietly, her professional composure completely abandoned. "Emma, I'm so proud of you. What you just did took more courage than you can imagine." Emma turned to Sarah, still holding on to her father with one hand and Buttons with the other. "I heard the girl singing and she was scared, like me, and I thought if I could help her, maybe I could help me too." Sarah smiled through her tears. "That's exactly right. Sometimes helping others is how we learn to help ourselves." The music teacher had stopped the concert, recognizing that something significant was happening. Parents were whispering, confused, but sensing the emotional weight of the moment. The principal, Mrs. Rodriguez, approached carefully. "Is everything all right?" she asked gently. Marcus stood, lifting Emma with him. "Everything is perfect. Mrs. Rodriguez, my daughter just spoke for the first time in over 2 years." Mrs. Rodriguez's eyes widened, and then she smiled warmly. "Emma, would you like to come up on stage? We'd be honored to hear you sing." Emma shrank back against Marcus, shaking her head. "Not yet," she whispered. "Maybe someday, but not yet." "That's perfectly fine," Mrs. Rodriguez said. "Whenever you're ready." They left the auditorium quietly, stepping back into the hallway. Emma was still clinging to Marcus, but she was talking now, slow, hesitant words about the concert, about how scared she'd been, about how the music had made her feel both sad and happy at the same time. Sarah walked them to their car, her heart full in a way it rarely was after sessions. This was why she'd become a therapist, not for the methodical application of techniques, but for these moments when human connection broke through trauma's walls. "Dr. Mitchell," Emma said, as Marcus buckled her into her car seat, "are we still going to have our appointments?" "Do you want to?" Sarah asked. Emma nodded. "I want to keep talking. I want to remember Mommy without it hurting so much. I want to be me again." "Then yes, we'll keep meeting. For as long as you need." As they drove away, Sarah stood in the parking lot, letting the rain fall on her face. She thought about how close she'd come to giving up, to telling Marcus that Emma needed someone else. She thought about the whispered word, beautiful, that had given Emma permission to be heard. She thought about the power of patience, of love, of refusing to accept that silence is permanent. Her phone buzzed with a text from Marcus. "Thank you for not giving up on her. Thank you for not giving up on us." Sarah typed back, "She never gave up on herself. She was just waiting for the right moment. Thank you for trusting me to be there when it came." That night, Sarah updated Emma's file one last time with the clinical details of the breakthrough. But she also added a personal note, something she'd never done before in 15 years of practice. "Today, I witnessed the kind of moment that reminds me why I chose this profession." Emma Carson found her voice not through therapeutic technique, but through love, her father's love, her own love for her mother, and the love that exists in the simple act of one person helping another. She taught me that giving up is easy, but persistence, patience, and faith in human resilience can unlock miracles. I will carry this lesson with me for the rest of my career. 3 months later, Sarah received an invitation in the mail. It was to Lincoln Elementary's spring concert, with a handwritten note from Emma. "Dear Dr. Mitchell, I'm singing a solo, It's Angel, for my mum. Will you come watch? Love, Emma P.S. Daddy says I can tell you now. I'm in counseling only once a month now, and I'm doing really good. I talk about Mommy all the time. It still hurts sometimes, but it's a good hurt. Like remembering makes her close." Sarah put the invitation on her refrigerator, where it stayed until the day of the concert. She sat in the auditorium with Marcus, and when Emma took the stage in a bright yellow dress, her hair in braids, clutching a microphone instead of buttons, Sarah felt tears blur her vision once again. Emma's voice rang out clear and strong, no longer the voice of a child trapped in trauma, but of a young girl finding her way back to joy. She sang for her mother, for her father, for herself, and for everyone who had refused to let her silence become permanent. When the song ended, the auditorium erupted in applause. Emma beamed, taking a small bow. Her eyes found Marcus in the crowd, then Sarah, and she smiled, a real, genuine smile that lit up her whole face. After the concert, in the lobby filled with proud parents and excited children, Emma ran up to Sarah and hugged her tightly. "Thank you," Emma whispered. "Thank you for hearing me even when I couldn't speak." Sarah knelt down, holding Emma's small hands in hers. "You found your voice, Emma." "You did that. I just held the door open." Emma nodded solemnly, then grinned with the mischievousness of a typical 8-year-old. Daddy says you're the best therapist in Portland, maybe in all of Oregon. Sarah laughed. Well, I don't know about that, but you're definitely the bravest patient I've ever had. As Sarah drove home that night through Portland's spring rain, gentler now, promising renewal, she thought about the journey from that first session when she'd wanted to give up to this moment of celebration. She thought about how Marcus's simple, whispered word, beautiful, had been the key that unlocked Emma's voice. But most of all, she thought about how sometimes the greatest act of healing is simply refusing to accept that someone is beyond reach, and how persistence, paired with love, can quite literally give voice to the voiceless. Emma Carson had found her way back from silence. She would still have hard days, still struggle with grief and loss, but she was talking now, singing now, living now. And that, Sarah reflected, was the definition of a miracle, not the absence of pain, but the courage to keep going despite it. In the end, the therapist hadn't given up on the girl. She'd simply learned to listen differently, to see progress in the smallest gestures, and to understand that sometimes healing doesn't look like what we expect. It looks like a father's whispered word, a child's trembling voice, and a song sung in memory of love that death cannot diminish. Emma Carson had found her voice, and in doing so, she'd taught everyone around her that it's never too late to speak, to heal, to begin again.